Account-Based Marketing is Dead, and Warmly will be the rise of person-based marketing. Chapter 3 is called Creating an Effective Explainer. Good explainer is one that is simple and starts with a powerful framing of the problem you're trying to solve and get someone to lean in and go, oh, how do you do that?
There's like insane amount of pressure to try to come up with like one line or 5 words that perfectly tell everything that your product can do and does. And I don't know if anyone's ever been good at that.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Founder Brand. My name is Maximus Greenwald and I'm here with Dave Gerhardt to discuss Founder Brand, where we're taking one chapter at a time, going through the book and helping Warmly as a business up level. And this is chapter 3, which we will get into in a minute, and defines a little bit about how to create an explainer for your company or business. Dave, good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too. Great job so far. Good positive response. Hope it's working. I was able to upgrade and get this new studio based on all the royalties from the book, so thank you for that. It's been great.
I'm sure it's directly related to my efforts. That's awesome, man. Looks great. Okay, so last month in chapter 2, we talked about defining our niche and also creating an enemy. And basically, I wanted to kind of recap some of the things that we talked about and what we've done in the past month to get closer to really defining that. And then we'll jump into chapter 3.
All right, let's do it.
Cool. First, we wanted to create the Warmly villain statement, which is a bold, spicy articulation of the kind of outdated mindset or legacy approach that we're going to be disrupting. And where we aligned on, and I think what you were cool with last time was account-based marketing is dead. And Warmly will be the rise of person-based marketing, which is the idea that we're moving to a model where we can actually define and find intent signals for individual people.
I like it.
Cool. Keep it simple, and we'll go after the evil, if you will, of account-based marketing. The second is sort of a niche or description of who we're focused on. We took your advice and kind of decided to go one level deeper, and where we kind of landed was basically going after marketing leaders at mid-market companies who are technical, want to try AI, and their sales team humans are frustrated at them and doing a lot of manual prospecting. And where does this group hang out? They hang out on LinkedIn, in cool communities in marketing like Exit 5, and also in the Bay Area. I moved here last month basically to be closer to our ICP and where our niche hangs out. And some of them are up-and-comers in doing revenue operations automations and being more technical marketers and may hang out in places like Clay Clubs.
Okay. The Bay is back. I've heard everybody's back. Return to the office, baby. Max is on the West Coast. That's big news.
Our RTBA, Return to Bay Area.
Just driving around, bumping E40 and just making ABM great again. I love that.
I love it. And then lastly, based on the villain that we're kind of creating, the niche that we're going after, starting to think about like, what is our hero story? Like basically, what is the kind of Warmly coming in there and disrupting the space? I don't think we've nailed it entirely yet, but one of the things I love is that we're going to really start telling this origin story and giving kind of the value of our business, talking about our mission in a relatable way. And the launch of this sort of series on describing who we are and what we do, going over the things in Founder Brand, I think is this sort of emergence of the hero to take on the villain.
Yeah, I like it. I think every week that goes on, we get closer and closer to like, it's not AI and marketing, it is AI is marketing. This is the new way businesses are going to get built. And I think the challenge that you will come up against, which everybody's going to have to tackle, is prove it. Show me how. People they want proof that it works, but they also want to be taught. I think I've long been an advocate of like education being the best marketing. And so I think if you're trying to win this space, the best way to do it is going to be through education. And I think what's cool is you have the opportunity to use your own product to do some of this stuff on your own and hopefully teach the world and spotlight some of your most successful customers and show other, sales and marketing teams how to do this.
Nice. We'll take it back to the Drift days for a second. When you were in the early days of thinking about educating your buyer to kind of warm up the market, what were a couple of tactics that you employed from a type of collateral creation or, what sort of really helped educate the market on the problem you were trying to solve?
I would start this by saying that I think that it's not necessarily about the delivery. I think that any channel can work. To me, the education is about the point of view. It's about the meat. It's about what is the unique point of view you have? What is the story? How are you different? And then what we had at Drift really was, what started that whole thing was a blog post that we wrote. It was not some crazy campaign that we had. We wrote this kind of like manifesto, and it was at the time, lead forms are dead. Here's why we're not doing gated content anymore at Drift. And here's what that means. And here's what we're going to do instead. And so it was unbelievable the level of traction that got. It was because of the point of view. It wasn't because we had lots of blog traffic at the time. We didn't have an email list. We wrote about that. We wrote that article. We posted on social. And I think we need to get back to more of that, where the way to stand out and differentiate yourself is by really pushing to have that strong narrative, that strong point of view on the market. It's not like, oh, we made some viral TikTok video and that's how we got found. It really was truly rooted in that point of view. We can argue, somebody's going to watch this and be like, is that true or not? We can argue 10 years later, did it work or not? That's fine. But I think at the time we got the attention of the market. And I think that's the way to do it is, hey, this is why I wrote the book Founder Brand in the beginning, because you started this company for a reason, not to just get rich and, ride off into the sunset. There was a core reason, and not just start the company, but you've told me like it's been a constant evolution. I think that's one of the beautiful parts about building a company, building a product, is you just get to keep evolving over time based on feedback and data and signals that you get from your audience. And so it's really about nailing that point of view. And we could have posted it and it flopped, and that would have been a great signal at the same time, because it's like, all right, well, we clearly didn't nail this story, but it was because we wrote it and we got that immediate feedback in my inbox, email replies, social media messages. It was like, okay, this thing struck a nerve. Now let's go down, let's go deeper here. And then what you saw from there was the execution across podcast, events, content. We wrote a book. That kind of comes after the fact once you kind of nail the story.
Totally. And it also may be that when you launch your point of view for whatever business you're doing, warmly included, people don't resonate with it. They may say, there's something here, but I'm not really getting it. Like, that doesn't really speak to my role or my job. And then it's about sort of just tweaking and iterating on that messaging to make sure that you can say, okay, well, do you at least agree that like, here's the villain? Okay, yeah, we all agree that's the villain. And then, hey, do you at least agree that like, you are the kind of person, the niche who should solve this problem? Yeah, okay. And then it sounds like where at least we are now in the book, and where you would recommend, let's say founders, early stage marketing teams think about is like, how do you land the message of your hero story, of your explainer, if you will, that like people go, oh yeah, like I get that. I get why you're doing this, and it really resonates in terms of what you're trying to solve for me.
Yeah, and the beauty in this is getting the actual words and feedback from your customers. It doesn't always come from like, you had this amazing messaging brainstorm session. You're going to get an email one day from a customer telling you that they did something with your product, or they're going to explain it in a way that you haven't really been able to articulate. And like at Drift, the category that we went and created was called conversational marketing. And it's not like we all were like sitting in some conference room doing that like, Post-it note, like trust fall brainstorm exercise. It was like we had circled around this idea about conversations and messaging. And then, one day a customer basically reached out to us and told us how they transformed their business doing conversational marketing. And we're like, that's it. That's the thing that we do. Let's name that. Let's own it, name it. This is what we do. And so it's so important to be publishing and to be getting this, regular feedback loop going, because you never know where the great messaging and copy ideas are going to come from.
Awesome. So chapter 3 is called Creating an Effective Explainer. Basically, a good explainer is one that is simple, and starts with a sort of powerful framing of the problem you're trying to solve, and get someone to lean in and go, oh, how do you do that? Maybe tell us a little bit more about, what is the right way to have that almost jujitsu conversation to get someone to lean in, and what the idea of the explainer is.
Well, I'm sure this is something that anybody who's worked in sales and marketing can relate to. Is I hate the concept of an elevator pitch, because an elevator pitch, your homepage headline, tagline, all that stuff gets morphed into one. And there's like this insane amount of pressure to try to come up with like one line or 5 words that perfectly tell everything that your product can do and does. And I don't know if anyone's ever been good at that. And so I'd been through a bunch of positioning exercises. We've hired, consultants and worked with so many people. And I just was like, you know what? I think there's just a more conversational way to do this. And it came up because we would go to events and we would explain what Drift was doing. And it was like, if I immediately met you, and this is like, 2016, 2017, Drift is an early stage company, shake my hand. Hey, Dave, what's up? What is Drift? Drift is the leading conversational marketing platform. You're like, what? I'm sorry, what does that mean? And so instead it was like, hey, Dave, what is, so I see, I see Drift everywhere. Like, what is Drift? And I'm like, well, you know how you go to someone's website and you just want to like contact sales because you're trying to figure out how much this thing costs, and you go to their website and you fill out this form. Yeah. And then it's, 13 fields, and then you got to wait 3 days to hear from someone. And then by the time they reach out to you, you're at your kid's Little League game. And then, that's not the right time to talk. And then they send you 15 emails and call you 6 times. And then by the time you actually get back to work, you see someone else and you're gone. And someone's like nodding along because it's a very relatable story. Yeah, I understand. Okay, well, basically what we've built is a way to get you answers instantly from the company, And so I kind of built this off of, I forget exactly who I got this copywriting thing from. I'm so well read, Max. I've read so many books over the years.
Too many books.
Too many to even know. But I love this copywriting lesson of like, the concept is basically first line, second line, and all the way down. And so the concept is basically like, what's the goal of the first line of copy? The goal of the first line of copy is to get you to read the second line. What's the goal of the second line of copy? To get you to read the third. And it's this constant progression. And we kind of took that approach to our marketing and to our homepage. And it takes some of the pressure off the homepage headline and the tagline a little bit, because the goal is not for me to, all right, Dave, you got 10 seconds to tell me what your thing is. Give me the best 5 words. And like, we tried initially to do this around the company, and everyone was trying to like memorize the words. It's like, just let's have a conversation about it. And so it's like, okay, hey, so you know how, boom, this thing is happening in the world? Yeah, I understand. Do you have this frustration? Yeah, okay, I got it. Well, we solve it by doing X, Y, and Z. Let's take the pressure off it being such a perfect, concise one-liner and make it more of a conversation. And that's kind of where that little framework has come from.
I love it. Yeah, one of my favorite parts is just the nugget, so you know how. It's just like easy to remember in your brain, so you know how, and then you have to fill that with like a relatable story.
I do this now. People like in my personal life are like, so what do you do? What is Exit 5?
Yeah.
And I'm like, have you ever had a professional development group or a network of people who do the same thing you do? Oh yeah. I'm an accountant. I'm a member of like the, Vermont CPA Society. Now I can properly explain my thing without this guy that I'm explaining to doesn't care about B2B marketing, but now I have him in the right frame of mind where I can then, okay, so basically, what I did is I've spent 15 years in my career working in marketing, and I got a bunch of followers on LinkedIn, and I started sharing all my learnings and stuff. And so we built an online community for people who, like you in accounting, want to develop their career and grow and advance their skills. And it's like, oh, interesting. So it's like kind of like a professional development organization for marketers. Yeah, exactly. That's what we built with Exit 5, right? That's how I would explain Exit 5 in a normal, human, conversational way to someone versus at a coffee shop and be like, what's Exit 5? And I'm like, we've built the world's leading community for B2B marketers. It's like, what's the point of that?
It's also like the emotional, like basically when you can recall an example in your life that feels relatable, you have this like physiological, emotional connection to, I feel that, and then you care, right? And if you don't care, then you're not going to listen, and you're not going to pay attention, and you're certainly not going to buy.
Yeah, well, I think good marketing is like a two-way conversation. It's that, that little feedback, that little, tennis match kind of thing.
Nice. All right, so let's get into it with Warmly. So, my goal this next month is to pick the perfect explainer for us. There are kind of 3 different ideas that we're playing with of what Warmly can become, and I'd love your early feedback on each of these. And again, we'll keep developing it over the course of the month. So I'll first start with the dumb way, which is sort of like, here's the physical thing we're trying to explain, and then we can try to put it into the mindset of, so you know how, and building that emotional kind of story. So The first one is, one of the directions we're thinking about for Warmly is to create the TAM CRM, Total Addressable Market CRM, which basically is a platform where you're going to get your whole total addressable market, all the companies and contacts you could ever reach out to, and then see how warm they are, warm, hot, cold. Trying to put that in the so you know how context is like, it could be something like, so you know how there's a lot of companies you could sell to. Well, Warmly puts all those companies in one place to make it easy to see and helps you figure out the best ones to reach out to.
I like the second half of it. Absolutely. My concern with TAM CRM is, buzzword soup.
Jargony, yeah.
We can argue about that. Like, people argue about this all the time on LinkedIn. It is factually true. I think most people would know what a TAM is, and most people know what a CRM is. So there's definitely something there, which is like, what if there was somewhere where you could log in and see the whole universe of people that you could possibly sell to? Well, that'd be sweet. Yeah, well, we have that. We can do that. You can? Okay.
Do you think there's something around like almost a challenging question? And again, I don't know if this fits the framework, but it's sort of like, do you know everyone that you can sell to? Or do you think that's like too kind of accosting?
It's not accosting. It just kind of feels like one of those questions that like, let me ask you a question, Dave. Do you care about growing your business right now? Well, yes. Like, I hate those. I hate I hate the sales questions that are like, it's a setup so someone can then ask you the next thing,
Yeah.
I almost think there's a story around, and I don't know perfectly how to frame this, but it's like, it used to be about like lead generation, contact generation. Like we used to have to generate a list, but now whether it's Warmly or, there's legacy players in the space like ZoomInfo, Apollo, whatever, now that like if I wanted to go make a list of the top 100, fintech firms in the world, I could do that without having to like write blog posts and hope they come to my website. And so you want to talk to companies who are kind of doing outbound as their main, strategy, right?
Yeah, and actually, that interestingly, I want to now pitch you the second one because again, I have a few options to consider. If our enemy is account-based marketing is dead, it could be natural that sort of explaining what we do is around we're the person-level intent platform. So again, there's some buzzwords there, but that's sort of the outcome we want to get to. So to put it in the framework of the effective explainer, it could be something like, so how if you want to sell a company, you have to actually talk to a person at that company. Well, Warmly is the ability to know exactly which person to reach out to sell them. Something like that.
If you can do that, that's the one. I would circle that and then go prove that. Yeah. Because I think that's where the world is going today. It's like, it's not about, remember the old like inbound versus outbound discussion? It was like inbound, you kind of cast this wide net and you see who shakes out, and maybe, 10% of those people are qualified or buyers or people who look like a good fit to buy your thing. And then I think it might've been like John Miller, the Engagio Marketo guy, talked about like, ABM and is more like, fishing with a spear. Yeah.
Yep.
Which doesn't seem very effective, by the way, a spear out of all the ways to fish. But the point is great, right? And I think it's something like that. And it's like, oh yeah, well that's amazing. And look, as a marketer, as a marketing leader, like I would much rather be like, these are the 500 companies that we care about and want to go after, versus like, we can sell our thing to anyone. So go write some blog posts, marketing boy, like it's a much better approach. So I dig that pitch.
All right. Third and final one to go over. Again, the outcome first, and then we'll put it in the framework. But the outcome I'm looking for is something like powering supermarketers with AI agents. So it's the idea that kind of we'll build a platform to help marketers who are now more AI enabled to kind of run these agents to help warm up their TAM or basically figure out the companies to reach out to. So the framework would be something like, so how marketers, how, I'm trying to make it more like a problem. The opportunity is like, so how it's super exciting to be a marketer today because you can use a lot of AI.
Which half of the audience would be like, is it? I'm not sure about that. I'm worried about my job.
Well, also fair. How do you think we can create a sort of problem statement around powering supermarketers with AI agents? Maybe like, so how marketing is getting noisier and more crowded than ever before.
Yes, I do. Yep. Marketing is getting more crowded and noisier than ever before. What if you had a way to look at or know exactly who the people at the companies that you want to reach? I'm not articulating it perfectly, but it's like, what if you could log in somewhere and see the exact people that you should talk to about your product?
Right. Well, there's also something about how we believe that marketers are kind of underappreciated and undercompensated in their companies, and we want to make marketers more recognized and like empower them to be sort of the heroes they are within their department. And AI agents can automate a lot of the burdensome, kind of work. So I wonder if there's something around like, so how marketers work super hard, but oftentimes aren't appreciated or don't get the full recognition for their attribution. Warmly makes marketers into supermarketers by automating away their boring work.
I think the key to this is like, how can you make a claim that nobody else can really make? And I think that basically any company today selling software, selling AI, selling agents is going to have this message around like, we give your team superpowers, right? It's so, right. How can we get a layer more specific there?
All right. So we talked about the idea of TAM CRM, person level intent platform, and then powering supermarketers with AI agents. I think we're early in this discovery of like, what is that effective explainer? And one of my goals this next month is to kind of test it with a lot of different people and try to make it so simple that even my grandma can understand. Though I'm not sure she'll ever understand B2B software, but okay. That's okay. We still love her.
All right. Hey, on the messaging thing though, I think like with this whole story stuff is like, I think it's important to kind of realize and accept going in, especially from where you sit as the founder, this to me is never done. Mm-hmm. It is never like, we got it, we're not going to touch it. I mean, this was something that at the two companies where I led marketing, which is Drift and Privy, I mean, I'm talking about daily messaging with the founder and CEO about new angles, new ideas, ways to represent this story better. And so I think like if you can kind of remove some of the pressure on this exercise from like, all right, this is it. You know, it's a little bit different than like a rebrand. It's not like you're going to change your font, change the colors, spend, 6 figures on an agency and get this thing done. It's like your messaging is going to always be evolving. And so I like this. It's got to be a very iterative process, which is like, okay, we're going to boil this down into kind of 2 or 3 angles we like. And then I'm going to get out there and I'm going to start pitching this and I'm going to see what people react to on the phones and in our meetings. And then we're going to keep iterating. And then, one day this would always happen. Like I would see something from Apple or Salesforce or just, I don't know, my grocery store down the street. I'm like, oh man, that's an amazing way to explain the thing that we do. And I'm taking a picture of it and I have a swipe file and we're kind of always iterating. And so I think be open to always kind of gathering little bits of data and feedback to tweak this story.
Awesome. Yeah. And I think in the next month, I want to get as much data as I possibly can. And I'm going to scale it beyond myself. I'm actually going to leverage my team and ask my salespeople on sales calls and, my marketing team as well to just be constantly asking the question, some version of like, what do you think we do? What is the simplest way to understand what we do if you don't know what we do yet? So I'll kind of get back to you in a few weeks with how it goes and appreciate your coaching along the way.
Yeah. The other thing is like understanding your competitive landscape really matters more than ever now. And just whether what you say, it's almost like it doesn't matter what you say, if what you say is true or not. It's like, do people believe it? And then the hard part is that like, if your 3 closest competitors are roughly saying the same thing, then the opportunity is to look at the way they're saying things and be like, we're going to go completely different and we're going to say it over here because it is a game of attention and you need to find those gaps and paths to go after. And so I'd really take that into account also as like plot, Warmly's most common competitors out there. Where are you losing deals to? What do people think your competitors are? And try to really stand out from them. And the game is going to be much easier.
Love it. Dave, thanks so much for taking time on our next iteration of our Founder Brand series. And thanks for writing the book, obviously. It was a good read for chapter 3. And We'll see you next month for chapter 4.
All right. I'll be here. Sounds good. See you later.